Hello everyone, this is R.S. Miller at the endtimenews.org, and today is May 18th, 2012. Stay tuned after the earthquake report for a special commentary. You don't want to miss this one. There was a 6.0 off the in the New Brighton region, and a 5.2 south of Tonga, 4.2 in Tarapacá, Chile, 4.7 the Molucca Sea, 4.5 in southwestern Ryukyu Islands, Japan, 4.3 in Argentina, 4.6 in Antofagasta, Chile, 4.6 in Papua, Indonesia, 4.2 in Mexico, 4.5 near the coast of Venezuela, 4.4 in San Juan, Argentina, 4.7 in the Celebes Sea, 4.0 in Guerrero, Mexico, 4.4 near the coast of central Peru, 3.7 offshore Valparaiso, Chile, 4.5 north of Svalbard, 4.7 off the shore of Chile again, 4.4 coast of Honshu, Japan, near the coast, 4.3 in eastern Texas, 4.4 in the Fiji region, 4.2 in Greece, 4.1 in the Aleutian Islands, 4.1 in Tajikistan, 5.0 in Santa Cruz Islands, 5.1 southern Iran, 4.9 off the west coast of northern Sumatra, 4.1 in Greece again, 4.7 in Sulawesi, Indonesia, 4.8 in Ryukyu Islands, Japan, 4.5 in Carlsberg Ridge, a 6.2 off the coast of Chile, 4.3 Panama, 4.2 in Indonesia, 4.9 eastern Honshu, Japan, 4.0 in Azerbaijan, 3.6 in southern California, 4.6 near the coast of Japan. Some of these are aftershocks, but still, if you're in the middle of one, it's not exactly a pleasant thing. 4.7 the Kuril Islands, 4.4 off the east coast of Kamchatka, 4.8 Hindu Kush region in Afghanistan, 4.6 Salta, Argentina, 4.8 again in Azerbaijan, 3.9 the Alaskan Peninsula, and that was the last one. Is it normal to have so many earthquakes within such a short period of time? I'm fairly sure that those who know would say yes. But would they tell it if the earthquake activity were increasing in both frequency and intensity? Probably not. Because first of all, it would have a tendency to favor end-time Bible prophecy, which in turn would cause more people to believe in the God of the Bible. Secondly, if everyone on the planet believed that it was the end of the world, it could well cause panic, chaos, anarchy, and societal collapse. What would likely happen if it were discovered that the Earth was facing a major catastrophic event? The governments of the world would try to keep it secret, while at the same time making arrangements to save as many people as possible. Not just any people, but instead doctors, engineers, chemists, computer specialists, etc. The common ordinary folk will be left out in the cold and in the dark. If we, the general population, were told at all, it would be at the last possible minute. That's one of the reasons we should learn to think for ourselves. Another reason is this. Some famous guy once said, "A nation of non-thinkers is easily led." That statement applies to everyone. We all must think for ourselves and not simply take the word of our dearest and most trusted sources. Even we Christians must study for ourselves so as not to be misled. For example, if any of you have heard about the Reverend Jim Jones back in the mid to late 70s, then you know how the principle of not thinking for yourself can cause one to be easily led. The Reverend Jim Jones started out as a Christian preacher, at least on the surface. I'm not sure if he was truly a full-fledged Bible-believing preacher or not, but he ended up as the leader of a death cult. He moved his congregation to Guyana, South America, where he caused some 900 plus people to either commit suicide or to be murdered by his loyalists. You can Google the Reverend Jim Jones and get more detailed information. But why didn't his congregation read the Bible for themselves? If they had done so, they wouldn't have been led to their deaths. Well, this leads me into the lie of evolution. They tell us that it is so, and without question, we believe. Even though there is evidence for microevolution, which is the change within species, most creationists do not have a problem with this issue. We call it adaptation, or the ability for a species to adapt to its environment. But as far as macroevolution goes, which is in essence the evolution of lower, less complex life forms which split off into various branches, with one of those branches leading to mankind, they have yet to provide evidence that cannot be debunked. In addition, a significant amount of the so-called evidence is not evidence at all, but a conjuring of the imagination and even the fraudulent manufacturing of alleged transitional forms. The theory of evolution is an ideology based on speculation, conjecture, hypothesis, presumptions, observations, and secularism. There is no conclusive evidence which supports the theory. But on the contrary, there are significant amounts of scientific evidence which points to creation. The desperation of evolutionists to prove that life evolved from microbial muck lends itself to an overactive imagination and delusional fantasy. One example of this is the charts that are used in classrooms which depict the evolutionary progression of man. They are not actual facts, but they are simply representations, an artist's imagination. The skeletal form Homo erectus, found by archaeologists, has been touted as one of the missing links in the evolutionary chain. Again, artists created images of its perceived appearance based on the belief that it was in fact the missing link. But in the end, it turns out to be nothing more than human remains. Neanderthal man and Cro-Magnon man also turned out to be human fossils. Then there's Lucy, reported as proof of evolution. The amazing thing about Lucy is that part of her was discovered in 1973, the knee joint, and the rest was discovered over a mile away and some 200 feet deeper in the soil in 1974. And yet the archaeologists still insisted that they were part of the same creature. In addition, the leg above the knee had an outward lateral movement of about 15 degrees, which indicates a strong tree climber such as an orangutan or a spider monkey, not an ape-to-man hominid. Evolution has experienced a long line of disappointments and embarrassing hoaxes, the most famous of which is Eoanthropus dawsoni, or Piltdown man. This fossil of a humanoid skull was discovered in the Piltdown quarry in Sussex, England in 1912. At last, the missing link had been found. There were books written on the subject for 40 years. The science community spoke confidently about the soon-to-be intellectual disaster. Then in 1953, it was discovered to be a fake. The skull was that of a human, and the jawbone was that of an ape, which had been put together and manipulated in order to appear authentic. And let's not forget Nebraska man, an entire race of prehistoric people built on the evidence of a single tooth, which turned out to be that of a peccary, which is a modern-day pig living in Paraguay. Is this a case of overactive imagination, or one thinking more highly of themselves than they should? Proof of God's existence can be found everywhere you look. In spite of the false religion of evolution, which is being taught, evidence of God is all around us. But unless you start thinking for yourself, you won't recognize it until the end. It has been almost conclusively proven that evolution is a lie, a misconception, no transitional forms, Piltdown man, the first laws of physics, which all things tend to deteriorate when left to themselves, and mountains of evidence in favor of creation. And yet still it is taught as fact in schools, universities, books, and the media, National Geographic and the like. Either the vast majority within the humanistic science community are non-thinkers, as in not being able to think past the evolutionary box in which they were first taught, or they have been deceived, or they are liars. In a letter written by Dr. Olson, a noted scientist at the Smithsonian Institute, on November 1st, 1999, to Nature and National Geographic, expressed his displeasure with the way that they were misrepresenting the truth concerning the evolutionary transition from dinosaurs to birds. In his letter, he said, "The idea of feathered dinosaurs and the theropod origin of birds is being actively promulgated by a cadre of zealous scientists acting in concert with the certain editors at Nature and National Geographic, who themselves have been outspoken and highly biased, proselytizing the faith. True and careful scientific weighing of evidence has been among the first casualties in their program, which is now fast becoming one of the grander scientific hoaxes of our age." What Dr. Olson was referring to is how these scientists are placing feathers on dinosaurs and scales on bird without any proof whatsoever. Then these invented dino birds are displayed in major museums as evidence. It is a natural perception for the general public to believe that there must have been evidence in the fossil record, or otherwise these highly respected people wouldn't have done it. The following is an excerpt from nwcreation.net, and it's Archaeoraptor, fake dino bird. The most recent and perhaps the most infamous evolutionary fraud was committed in China and published in 1999 in the journal National Geographic, November of 1999. Dinosaur bones were put together with the bones of a newer species of bird, and they tried to pass it off as a very important new evolutionary intermediate. Archaeoraptor was proclaimed with much fanfare as an evolutionary missing link, yet it did not receive an equal amount of publicity when it was discovered to be a fraud, leaving the general public with the misconception that evolution is true and creation is not. Sir Isaac Newton, undoubtedly one of the most brilliant scientists of all time, was a firm believer in creation by intelligent design. He once hired a workman to build a replica of our solar system. The workman had done an incredible job with properly proportioned planets in their correct orbiting positions. He had even devised a mechanical cranking system which caused the planets to rotate as they orbited around the sun. One day, a scientist/atheist friend had come to Sir Isaac's home where the device was displayed. The following is an excerpt from The Truth, God or Evolution by Marshall and Sandra Hall. Seeing the model, he was naturally intrigued and proceeded to examine it with undisguised admiration for the high quality of the workmanship. "My, what an exquisite thing this is," he exclaimed. "Who made it?" Paying little attention to him, Sir Isaac answered, "Nobody." Stopping his inspection, the visitor turned and said, "Evidently you did not understand my question. I asked who made this." Newton, enjoying himself immensely, no doubt, replied in a still more serious tone, "Nobody. What you see just happened to assume the form it now has." "You must think I'm a fool," the visitor reported heatedly. "Of course somebody made it, and he is a genius, and I would like to know who it is." Newton then spoke to his friend in a polite yet firm way. "This thing is but a puny imitation of a much grander system whose laws you know, and I am not able to convince you that this mere toy is without a designer and maker, yet you profess to believe that the great original from which the design is taken has come into being without either designer or maker. Now tell me, by what sort of reasoning do you reach such an incongruous conclusion?" The Apostle Paul in Timothy 6:20 states, "O Timothy, keep that which has been committed to thy trust, avoiding profane and vain babblings and oppositions of science falsely so called." Evolution is a devised conspiracy which prevents many people from believing in God's creation. By teaching that we are all just accidental animals, life becomes meaningless. Yet it seems to be, for some, easier to believe that the tooth of a pig is evidence of evolution than it is to see the evidence of design which is present in virtually every animate and inanimate object. Using as an example the modern man-made communities in which we live, can it be said that houses, even though they provide shelter from the elements, along with the amenities which we have become accustomed to, have no meaning? What is the purpose of the carpet covering the floor, or the cabinets, countertops, and kitchen sink? Is there anything that the contractor built into a house that serves absolutely no purpose? All parts of a house and everything within it have a reason for being there. Electrical outlets provide power. The insulated wires inside the walls transport that power from point to point. The doors provide access, and the materials that the doors are made of determine a level of security, as in glass doors or hollow wood doors or steel doors, etc. The windows allow sunlight, ventilation, and can also serve as an emergency exit route. The only items in your house that might not serve a purpose is the garbage you forgot to take out, or perhaps the dust bunnies hiding in the corner. Similarly, every living creature has built-in systems which are many thousands of times more complex than the by design man-made items, and yet there is a profound refusal to acknowledge even the slightest possibility of a designer. To do so would be to concede that there is a God far superior to us. If you've been duped into believing the evolutionary lie, don't feel bad. It's a difficult thing to see through what we're taught by respected and trusted educators, secular scientists, and also the media, who propagate the delusional fantasy as if it were fact. Just in case you haven't noticed, particularly every nature program, at some point during the broadcast will use the term hundreds of millions of years, or when referring to fish, primates, or other animals as our ancestors. You owe it to yourself to take a closer look and not stumble into the folly of fools. Proverbs 16:22. Understanding is a wellspring of life unto him that hath it, but the instruction of fools is folly. Since the mad rush to find proof of evolution in the fossil records began, there has been no incontrovertible evidence found. What was found is this: 200 million fossils, tens of thousands of bats and seals, 100,000 plus dinosaurs, and not a single transitional form, which is what the search is all about. Charles Darwin stated that if his theory were true, the evidence would show up in the fossil records as millions of fossils of transitional forms. Even though there has been no evidence found to verify the author's theory, the madness persists. Apparently, far too many of us do not like the idea of a creator God being in charge and demanding righteousness and accountability. If the creation account of Genesis were true, we wouldn't be able to revel in our own fleshly lusts and desires with impunity. We would actually have to humble ourselves before an awesome, powerful, glorious, and infinitely superior God. And in today's secular humanistic society, the chances of that happening are next to none. Don't let arrogance blind you to the truth. The evidence for creation is overwhelming, but the science community is only allowed to think in terms that all things have a natural explanation. Don't be deceived by this faulty concept. All evidence should be examined without exclusion. Otherwise, one will never reach the truth. And the truth is that the God of the Bible is real, and so is Noah's flood, which was the destruction of the sinful mankind. If you have an ear to hear and eyes to see, there is a video which proves beyond any reasonable doubt that Noah's Ark has been found. In conclusion, if the evidence points to creation and Noah's Ark has been found, then the God of the Bible is real. And still, even more evidence points to these being the last days, the end of this world system. Friends, there is just far too much evidence proving God's existence and the fact that we are living in the last days. Don't be like an ostrich and bury your head in the ground, not knowing what's going on around you. Our time is getting short. No man knows the day nor the hour, but we will know when the time is near, even at the doors. Are you saved? Follow the link below and say the prayer with all sincerity, and you will be saved. May God bless each and every one of you.